This, in essence, is a fight for values. The French officials who have been taking to social media or using media to make statements have made very clear that their country, the country that they govern, will not yield, make any kinds of concessions in the face of terror. France, of course, at this point is no longer a stranger to terror, but why indeed is it so exposed to these types of attacks and to the wrath of the Islamic State organization? For instance, remember that France is one of the leading European countries in the fight against the terror group in its so-called caliphate, where it suffered tremendous losses in some of its strongholds in Mosul and Iraq, for instance, but also in its self-proclaimed capital in Raqqa in Syria. Both of those were heavily bombarded by French fighter jets. French military advisors were also working in close coordination with the fighters that were very much on the front lines, whether it be members of the Kurdish or Arab militias. Also remember that inside of the Islamic State organization, there was a very strong presence of French fighters. So French men and women who left their country of origin to go fight for the Islamic State organization. It was said that at one point inside Raqqa, the self-proclaimed capital of the so-called Islamic State Caliphate, French was perhaps the second most spoken language. There were more fighters from France in the ranks of the Islamic State organization than from any other European country. And these French fighters were said to have a lot of know-how in terms of how to conduct operations. They were very influential and obviously remain so. So they have this ability perhaps not to win against a conventional army, not to win any kind of battle, but they're still very much a nuisance, and they can, coordinate operations on the French soil. Remember as well that France remains mobilized and fighting in so-called Muslim lands in the language of the Islamic State organization. Statements, whether it be in Mali and the Sahel region, where France is at the forefront of a fight against jihadist fighters out there, also in Afghanistan and a whole other parts of the world. So these are some of the reasons that are usually given by jihadists in their statements to explain why their so-called soldiers are perpetrating attacks on French soil. Emmanuel Macron has now been president for just a little over a year, and this is already the second terror attack.